Ya no puede caminar, que no tiene por qué le falta marihuana que fumar.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Jello's here at Battle Rankings for another episode. By the way, this is our 103rd. How did I miss our 100? I don't know. This is our 103rd episode that we're celebrating on Cinco de Mayo. And I am joined by my lovely and talented producer, Ann. Say hi, Ann.
Hi, Ann.
And we got another wonderful show for you. It seems like this monthly stuff's working out for us with everything going on. But yeah, got a jam-packed episode with a bunch of stuff. Let's get some housekeeping out of the way. First of all, speaking of 103 episodes, if you want to see any of our past episodes, best place to go see them is on YouTube. And you could we have them organized. So missions and tactics and army building. So that's all out there for
holiday shows.
The holiday shows.
We got to get a clip show together.
A clip show, right?
Yeah, maybe we can.
I don't know. Maybe is that when we jump the shark when we have a clip show?
I don't know.
Anyway, so we got a clip show. Anyway, so we got the stuff out there that you can go on YouTube and see it. It's categorized. I know you guys go back because I look at the analytics, and I know that people are checking out other things, especially when certain tournaments get announced and people go look back on it. So that is out there for you guys.
Why don't you show them the cool drink you got?
Oh, it is Cinco de Mayo, so I have my margarita. Oh, by the way, that shows up really nice on camera.
Does it?
Oh, yeah.
Nice and red.
Yep. Okay. Anyway, we are joined by, I got two other people join us. Our SME for the day. Let's bring them on because we are going to talk about MidWar monsters, and we are going to talk about the Team Yakee tournament. And the invitations went out, and we're going to talk about
Team Yakee Masters, you mean?
Team Yakee Masters. Yeah, the invitations went out because the end of the season was April 30th. And so the invitations went out. I host the Team Yakee Masters, and I came up with the format, and I'll go over the format. It's a little bit different this year. Let me bring in my SME for today, Jacob Meyer. Hey, Jacob, how you doing?
Hey, Joe. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. We also have coming on in as part of our Battle Rankings team member, Lana. Hi, Lana.
Hi.
Oh, what's
Svetlana, love you.
Yeah, or as I would say, Lana, la 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 la. Anyway, okay. So, you know what?
Lana, can you do a clip show?
Yeah, actually, chop off other shows and do a clip show.
I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, let's.
All the times he just goes. La, 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 la.
I just noticed something. I think they have a. Oh yeah, we could go in it, or next to. Okay, so let's talk about a MacGuffin. You're like, I know that our two guests are
Maltese Falcon.
Yeah,
Exactly. Maltese Falcon.
That is the primary one that everybody calls it.
Yeah.
I think it was the first time the term was actually used.
Was it MacGuffin?
Yeah.
I thought it was
It might have been earlier than that.
I thought it was Hitchcock.
Was it Hitchcock?
Well, maybe
Might
coined
have
the
been
phrase.
Hitchcock.
But a MacGuffin is an object, device, or event that is necessary to the plot and motivates the characters, but is insignificant, unimportant, or irrelevant. So, by the way, I have an example of MacGuffin. Okay, and
The Death Star plans.
yeah, well, the Death Star plans,
May the
yes.
Fourth be with you.
But here's my MacGuffin. It is the W it's a mad world. Okay. There's
Not seen that movie. Oh my gosh.
oh yeah, if you
That's
haven't
insanity.
yeah, if you haven't seen this movie, it is a must in your list. But they are looking for this W in this park because it all begins off with there's an they're like I think they're on a
Treasure.
Arizona or something like that. There's a car accident, and the gentleman that was in the car accident is dying, and he tells the people that are surrounding him that he buried a lot of money underneath the W in this park, and then it's a comedy from there on out. Basically, this is Jonathan Winters. Basically, anyone who was a comedian at the time or a funny person was in this movie. It was a huge cast, and all right. It was also the last theatrical appearance of the Three Stooges.
Yes.
They had a cameo. So, anyway, that's an example of MacGuffin, Maltese Falcon,
The Death Star plans.
the Death Star plans. What else? There's a bunch of them.
It's something
A
that
lot
they're
of
going
Hitchcock.
after.
A lot of Hitchcock stuff, like
My Hitchcock stuff, yeah.
North by Northwest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The plots there. But what, go ahead.
What does this have to do?
Yeah,
But it does have something to do with it.
it does have something to do with it. Let's talk about the format for Team Yankee. You guys ready for this? I know you two have not seen this yet. Yeah. Oh, Brian shared it with me.
Yeah. Coach just can't keep his mouth shut.
Yeah. Well, 120 points using normal list build, except for the following. Okay. A maximum of 1 infantry unit / attachment, a maximum of 1 aircraft unit, and based on your nationality, you must include one of the following mainline battle tank, non-HQ unit. Okay. So for the Americans, the British, so everyone has some. I guess the weakest one's the French, but I mean, hey, when you make it the MX-30, you're like, good enough. That's what you have to live with. Some people have a little bit better than others, but you must have one of these tanks, one unit of these tanks in your list. The MacGuffin unit needs to be clearly identified before deployment and during the game. If your list contains multiple of the same the same unit, only one of the mainline battle tanks is the MacGuffin. It is strongly encouraged you use a token or a marker to indicate your MacGuffin unit. All right, great. Now you've indicated. In addition to the standard point scoring, if you destroy your opponent's MacGuffin unit, you receive 1 additional victory point. If your MacGuffin unit is destroyed, you subtract 1. So it could be a wash. You take theirs, they take yours. It's a wash. Okay. And to complete the definition of MacGuffin, a destroyed MacGuffin unit does not count as a unit lost for the purpose of determining victory conditions. It's an extra. Okay. So that, and then the rest of it, the battle plans, you have to use 2 of each of the battle plans: attack, maneuver, defend. What? Oh my gosh. Well, it sounds like it's a lot of tanks, right? That's okay. We're good, because what we've done is we took deep out of all the missions. So there's no deep reserves. So if there's reserves, it's reserves. If it says deep, you take deep out, and there you go. Also, reduce the number of minefields to 3, because you don't have the infantry units to remove them. five minefields on a short table. So that's pretty much most of the table. Matchups will be manual. I'm not going to be doing best coast pairings because of the way the scoring goes and is being used, and extended battle plans, and then just to add insult to injury, the winning would be by victory points. Then if there's a tiebreaker, it would be the net total of MacGuffin units destroyed. So the units that you destroyed minus your units that you lost equals the net. So the strength of schedule, then the number of wins. So that pretty much break any ties. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think this really flips Team Yankee on its head. Brian's been asking me what I think is going to be good in this format, and I have no idea. I think the one infantry restriction that changes it quite a bit. So I'm not sure. We are kind of feeling where the MacGuffin unit is. In Team Yankee, it's so easy to kill stuff. It's such a violent, destructive game that kind of just throw it up in the air and count that as it. Not worry about that as much. And especially since some of those units, especially for the major nations, those are some of the worst units in the game for their points. And so trying to keep those alive or trying to worry about making a big enough unit to avoid getting lost is just going to be a massive point sink. So I really haven't quite wrapped my mind around exactly what this is going to look like. Also, the no deep reserves really changes how you can play as well. The minimum one aircraft. I mean, there's a whole lot of curveballs thrown in here. So we haven't quite agree. We definitely do not agree on what's going to be good in this scenario. But I've got no idea. We're talking it out. We'll be working on this one for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, these rules are definitely going to mix it up and make it interesting. I know. John was, when he got the invite, he was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to bring a tank list," and everyone knows he likes his infantry. So seeing what the rules are, I can understand where somebody who likes to bring infantry or likes to bring aircraft can really find it challenging because they're forced to use more maneuver based stuff, tanks, Humvees, something like that, and can't be solitary and rely on infantry to do all the heavy lifting.
As much as you can maneuver with 400 models on the table.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, the 120 points, that's intimidating as well, as there's still a lot of cheap tanks and other effective main battle tank killers out there for low point totals, and you can get a lot of those. So just managing the traffic jam that's going to be your deployment area is going to be a challenge as well. So it is a massively different game. I really like the challenge that this is going to pose.
Yes, I think it breaks a lot of people out of their comfort zone. Yeah, so the way my life goes is that at night, when I'm in the apartment all by myself, I have a lot of time to think. and by the way, this was what inspired me is the current is what we see is the current Russian tactics at the time in Ukraine. It's just a bunch of tanks all by themselves shooting it out. I'm like, okay, hey, well, what can I do with that? And it all started from there. So
I'm surprised you didn't post the Apex Predator meme then.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
The Apex Tiger?
No, it's the stories of the farmers using their tractors.
Oh, it was the tractors, yes.
To steal tanks. I'm surprised you didn't pull out one of those memes.
No, with little tractors, little John Deere's coming out, and whatever the equivalent. Well, they're not actually little. I mean, they're really full-fledged farmer tractors.
Right. But when you think tractor versus tank, you don't necessarily imagining the tractor winning.
Well, when you abandon it and leave the keys,
it's all about the number of tractors you can take in Team Yankee.
Yeah,
take enough tractors.
Enough tractors.
I'm curious if those tanks actually have keys or not. Because I know sometimes they're like switches instead.
Yeah, right. Well, isn't it also about the combination of switches too? Hit the primer a couple times, hit this turbo switch, hit this switch, and then
how much extra fuel do I need to put in there?
Yeah, primer. Well, that is Team Yankee, which is I don't know. I'm like I hope I guess the proof will be in the pudding to see what people bring and how it plays out. It could be really good. I do have a lot of like John here. Love the format. I know Charlie Clay likes the format. I've seen his posts and stuff like that. So I'm seeing a lot of love the format. So we will see. Yeah, it's definitely not. You bring in a bunch of infantry, sit them down, and have the your BTRs and night. That's the other thing I was thinking was missing from Team Yankee is you don't see too many people actually driving around with main battle tanks. It's a game of all the little crap, So
it would be interesting to see how people choose to use pack fronts or different anti-tank units because of just creating that balance.
Well, one thing I did do is I went through and I made, when I do these things, I actually make stuff together. I actually jump on forces and actually put lists together and say, okay, with this, am I, really neutering someone or, it's like, I'll give an example. Like the British are an interesting position because their mainline battle tank, they get 3, right? But all their support could kill stuff. It's it kills things. So it's like, oh, I have great support, but I only have 3 of my MacGuffins. No. Or is the other thing is, Jacob, like you mentioned, maybe I just don't give a hoot about my MacGuffin. Maybe that's the thing. Now, one of the things comes up, and there was a question, which was the way I word you only can have one infantry unit or attachment. I did word it that way so that West Germans can have a HQ, 1 infantry, and their mainline battle tank. Because otherwise, it's just they don't. I don't think they have enough flavor. And I think there was another recon unit, someone else that has
that. Leo 2 recon unit. That's a pretty good unit that we kind of thought about with the Martyr 2s and the couple of the big tanks.
Yep. So, all right. So there's that. So now, everyone, we talked about the Team Yankee. Well, you ready to talk about MidWar monsters?
Just tingling with anticipation.
Okay. Any particular nation you want to start with first?
How about the Germans, as they have next to nothing?
Well, very good. Jawohl, Germans. By the way, I put the 2 together so we could compare them.
Yep, excellent. I did. When you look at units like that from a competitive balance, you can't look at anything in a vacuum by itself. It's always, what is it compared to what else we can already take? Is it better? Is it worse? It may be good, but it's not going to get played if there's something that's better. So, and I think by the smallest hair on the head that the Tiger Porsche version is slightly better than the regular Tiger.
Can I take a guess?
What do you think it is, Joe?
The 2+ Cross.
The 2+ Cross, that
Yeah.
is the slightest edge to it for absolutely no downside. I don't understand why you wouldn't take that 2+ Cross. I assume that is just an Air by Battlefront, especially considering how terrible the Porsche electric suspension or whatever was. That I don't think they can historically make it a better, like, justify that it's a better cross. But I guess maybe if the system is working perfectly, or they can justify it. But I think that's just a copy and paste error. But it makes it a little bit better.
It does make it. Now, it does have a tactics of 8, but
8, and the turret is not centered on the vehicle, which I guess if you're sticking behind a hill or a building, it'd be easier to expose less than half of your hull and still get concealment and shooting around.
Yeah, because it's up front.
Yeah.
You know.
I think the engine's in the back, so it's pushed way up to the front, and so any Germans really seem to like putting their turrets right smack dab in the middle of their tank, which makes it very difficult to get concealment behind a building, I found. But if it's forward, like the Soviets tended to put their turrets further forward, and so it's easier to get concealment behind a hill or a building like that. And that I saw that as the Tiger as well.
Oh. By the way, I did know something else about the Tiger. If you use your wild card, because by the way, this is a wild card. If you take it as a wild card, that actually frees up that box so that you could take a Diana.
I did not know that. I assumed that this was a 1-for-1 replacement in the regular Tiger 1 formations. I didn't think you had to use your wild card slot for it.
Yeah, it's a wild. This one's particularly a wild card slot. I think.
I missed that fact. So, with right now, it does not matter as that's your one and only wild card. But once the Eastern Front book comes out, I imagine there's going to be quite a few others.
Yeah, for actually, hold on.
Maybe I'm thinking of the older version of the game where it was just you could replace it willy-nilly. But then again, it didn't have any different stats.
So in the book, it actually uses the word wild card. So remember, I for years I'm like, what the hell's a wild card? But now we have this is a wild card, and we got a couple of them. And so because it uses the wild card slot, you free up the Diana. So you could have Martyrs, Diana, and a Tiger.
Where are you going to fit your Italians?
That's a good question. I know. Do you need them? I don't know. Anyway, okay.
One question I have, maybe you can answer this, Joe. When you're taking black box support for another nation, can you take a German wildcard unit in your Italian wildcard slot, or is it only with German forces that you can take the German wildcard units?
I think I'm going to default to that because of the way the matrix works. Hold on, let's actually just take a look at the book. I know there's a lot of people yelling right now, going, "The book doesn't matter." Anyway,
I think there's really only one.
Yeah.
As I think the
okay, so I'm looking at the book here. So the way the wild card is positioned there, it just says wild card ? And I think it's been saying that for a long time. I'm going to take the common sense approach until I'm proven wrong. I think your wild card is the nation's wild card.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably a good rule
So
of
that
thumb.
wild card unit can't be the one platoon of formation support for an allied formation.
Right, because you got other boxes for that.
Yeah.
And because it's not black boxed,
True.
You can't take a Porsche Tiger with your Italians.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's how I'd play it. What about what nation do you want to do next?
How about Italians? Let's just work our way through the book.
How about them? Italians. Okay, here they are. Let's bring up these bad boys.
Yeah, Italians have a lot more choices, at least more variety there. So you got the heavy tanks, the P-2640, and really in the formation. Did I see this correctly? That the Semivente longs they can only be taken in the same formation, the heavy formation, as well as. And they're not in the wild card section. Can these tanks be taken in the wild card section, or do they have to be part of the heavy formation?
Okay, they're actually support. They're black box support units.
All right, so these can be taken black box. So you can take these as your black box support and the Semivente as your wild card. So you can fit all of these in there.
So I have a tournament this weekend, and it's MidWar, and I actually bought a box of these bad boys, and I am good. Okay, you ready? It's basically the light tanks. Though 4 of the P-26s and one Tiger. So I'm like, it's like the little brothers.
Yeah, I mean they're little, but they're not really cheap. At 8 points a piece, the P-26 is a pretty hefty investment. It's very comparable to the Desert German Panzer IV with that AT-10. I think that AT-10 sits at a pretty awkward place in mid-war. It's good against a lot of vehicles, but then there's going to be some that it just can't touch, like that Tiger of yours. Mm-hmm. And so it's a good medium tank. It's certainly not a heavy, but there's going to be some units that it just can't hurt and kill. The 5 front armor is pretty iffy, but then again, so the German Panzer IV. The German Panzer IV is a very, very similar vehicle. There's some small differences in the tactics or the protected ammo, but how many desert German Panzer IVs do you see in mid-war? They're not too many of them out there. I know that the German Panzer IV is 10 points, but it has some advantages. I think this unit might be a bit too expensive for what it can do. It's a nice unit. It's something that the Italians didn't have access to before, but ultimately, I don't think it's going to see a much play outside of people who want a little bit of flavor, or if they want a purely Italian force, as the German allies can offer some better units, I think, for the cost.
Yeah, I was just doing an Italian flavor, so that's why I did them with one big German thing. I don't. Wow, what do you think of this bad boy?
I'm sorry, was that me or
no, Savannah?
Yeah.
Not to put you on the spot.
It's definitely interesting, and it'd be fun to see how it plays out in action and see how how players approach.
I think it has 2 issues for the cost, where a Panzer III with 9 heat might be better. The one thing is that it has a 4+ cross, and
that that tactics is what scares me off.
Yeah, it's the tactics.
Yeah, you're going to be 2/3 of a chance you're going to be a 5, and that's like having no tactics at all.
Right. Yeah, which is, and it's pretty expensive for that. Before we go too far, I got a good thing here. Mike Kelly asked, why in your intro do you have an Israeli tank that's not in the game? Hint for things to come? Yeah, don't read too much into that. It looked like a cool picture that I can use. That's pretty much it. And by the way, if I get people thinking over Battlefront, like, well, that's a good looking tank for the Israelis, then yeah, maybe they will do it.
Yeah, they are.
I think the Israelis need more tanks.
Yeah, they are. They seem to be remaking all the compilations. I wouldn't be surprised if Oil Wars is going to get an update here, and the Israelis certainly have a lot more of equipment they could add.
Yeah,
you seem to have moved it forward a good 5-10 years or something like that in terms of equipment, and then that opens up a lot of new things for the Israelis.
So yeah, maybe they will. I hope so.
The cost is of all of them is really in like, do you want to pay for the cross or do you want to pay for like how far they can go in armor? Yeah. I think that's going to be
cross is very, 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 very important. I tried running some martyr, essentially a whole bunch of martyrs at Wolf Creek not too long ago with 4+ cross, and a lot of cursing, a lot of frustration there trying to get those things in and out of the woods, especially with Axis powers when you're relying upon it. I mean, there is some synergy here that you've got a crappy tactics roll that you're probably not going to be trying to do a whole lot of special moves through the woods. But I think the Axis hard to hit units are best when they can shoot and scoot, can blitz, and just can't do any of that very reliably without the tactics roll. And even if you can, if you're in the woods, you're liable to go nowhere with that cross. So I do think it's going to be a difficult unit to play. The Semiventes essentially are interchangeable for them. They're taken in the same formation. I think there's a little bit more promise to that unit as it's a point cheaper, and the front armor from 5 to 4 is not that different, but the ability to perform a bombardment, that's not too shabby. However, I think they're just generally outclassed by their existing brethren, the short-barreled Semiventes, that the 8 with a heat really is not that much worse than 10 without heat. They both have the bombardment ability, but if you're looking at a 4-point unit compared to a 7-point unit, I think those are just generally better buys. In fact, the most impressive thing I think of these two tanks is the formation that they come from can take multiple formations of the short-barreled Semiventes as core. So I actually kind of like that heavy unit, and I would take one group of the heavy tanks or the long barrels and then 2 groups of the short barrels, and that's a pretty stout unit there. I think the short barrel Semiventes have always been one of the better buys for the Italians.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've actually, with the short barrels, I've actually taken out T-34s because you get enough hits, and 1's for kills, 2's for bails. Well, as long as you get the guys throwing dice, you have a chance.
They're big units of 6, so that helps them. I mean, just rate of fire, you're gonna eventually roll a 1 or a 2 and bail out or kill something. So I think those are a pretty good unit.
Yeah.
So I can see myself maybe taking a heavy formation with one of these. They have to be taken as a black box in the first black box, but it would be more for access to the several core units of the short barrel Semiventes rather than really being excited about getting these units. And really, I think that's the best place where mid-war monsters are, that they're interesting, but they're not obviously a good unit. And so non-historical things like that, I don't mind adding them to the game, but I certainly don't want them to be too good where they make too many cameos.
No, right. Yeah, well, the thing is, I'm going to play with these P-26s this weekend, and I don't know if I'll ever play with them again after that, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, the Germans played them in late war. I wonder if they're ever gonna. Well, not played them. I actually used them in late war. I wonder if they'll ever show up in the game and as German support, maybe late war.
I think when I was looking for camo schemes or whatever they painted them, I found out they actually built and used 100 of them. So
yeah, so they've seen as much as anything. So the Semavente 90, that's another interesting unit. That AT-14 is really a premium in MidWar, and these aren't that expensive of a unit. I think, what are they, 4 points a piece, or no, 6 points?
Let
me look at my notes here.
Take a look.
7 points a piece. All right, it's the Lancias that are 6 points a piece. So it's 6 points for a Lancia versus 7 for the Semavente, where essentially you're an unarmored vehicle with the Lancia with a gun shield versus 4 front armor on the Semavente. I'm not sure that's worth the extra point. The Semavente 90s are aggressive to hit, where the Lancias are veteran. I think I'd rather rely upon that extra skill to hit, the extra 1 to hit, than hoping that the front armor, it does save you against things like machine guns, but then again, the gun shield also will make it very difficult for a machine gun to kill you. So I don't think that the weapons that it will save you from, I really don't think that's a wide variety of them. It's got a tactical move, whereas the Lancia doesn't. But the skill of 4 is not too bad. It doesn't have the tactics penalty that some of the other ones do. You especially if you upgrade them with the 8 million bayonets, the 3 skill. If I could get reliable 3 skill, maybe I'd feel a little bit differently about them. But I don't necessarily think I would take these over the Lancias. And once again, you just don't see too many of the Lancias. If this is a comparable unit to the Lancia, it might make it into the Italian only. But I think if you're taking Germans with your Italians, that the Germans offer some better support units than these Semaventes.
Yeah. Well, if they come out with it and they actually do late war, because you have Semaventes in late, so it might be worth picking up the model just for that, just for your any Italian campaign thing you got going on. So
it's a beautiful unit. The Italians, they knew how to design a good looking piece of equipment. I really like the look of the Semavente 90. I might own the model just for that sake. And it's a big gun, AT-14. That's nothing to laugh at in MidWar. So
yeah, it's the same gun as a Panther. So 40 inches. Yeah, it's slow firing, but you know what? If you do get the trained, if you do get the 3+, blitzing and shooting.
Yeah, I mean, I'd hide these behind a terrain feature or a hill. The 3+ cross isn't too bad either. It's surprising that these units have a better cross than some of the smaller, shorter barreled ones. But the 3+ cross, you can hide in a terrain feature and then just wait until you hit that blitz to expose them. If you fail the blitz, just stay gone to ground and hidden in the woods or behind the hill, and only expose yourself if you're going to get that full rate of fire alpha strike.
Yep. So I don't know. My opinion is that I think the Italians got a couple things to fill some holes that they don't have, but right now most people don't think of them in that role anyway. They always seem to be the I take Germans and then I pad it with some Italian light tanks.
Yeah, they seem to be the little brother of, which historically that's kind of what they turned into. They can operate on their own, but I think it's better if they go plentiful and belligerent than these big, more expensive units.
Right.
You can get an entire platoon of smaller tanks for the cost of a single one of these larger ones.
Yes.
And most of these holes are better filled with German allies than Italian equipment.
Agreed. What nationality do you
We
want to
got
know?
British next if we're going through the book.
Oh yeah, sure. Got the British. Got the British right here.
The British have quite a few different options.
Yeah. Now the interesting thing is the three of them are wild card, and the T-14 is not. So
it would be able to take it as black box support because it's part of the Churchill assault formation, I believe. So
I think it's its own assault formation.
Yeah. And the gun carriers, I think you could take the gun carriers in a black box unit mixed in with some regular Churchills. I think it's possible to take them or at least one mix in with a group of 3 of the in a black box. But I'm not sure why you'd want to, as I think the Churchill gun carrier is the single worst of the mid-war monsters. I can't think of any good reason why you would take this monstrosity. Comparing it to the 6-pounder Churchill, I mean, you've got the same armor, you got the same movement, the same to hit, same cross, all of that jazz, but you're just getting one extra anti-tank, and you have a better firepower. For that, you're giving up all of your machine guns. You give up pretty much your assault ability. Your counterattack and your assault just go to garbage. You go from getting bonuses to your counterattack to penalties to your counterattack. And you're paying more points for all of this. So I can't think of any reason why the upgrade from AT-10 to 11 for the downsides, even if it was the same cost, I don't think I would choose to take these gun carriers over the regular 6-pounder. That 3-inch gun on AT-11, that's not enough. I would rather have a TOG for this. Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, by the way, no, there's a premium to that 3-inch gun, even though it's forward firing, right?
Yeah.
It's a 10 4+ versus a 11 3+ 4 firing.
Yeah.
The armor's all the same, but yeah, the counterattack stinks, and the assault stinks. So basically, what I don't. Yeah, you're right. And just pound for pound, the Churchill gun carrier, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. It's flavor, but I don't think it's going to be seeing too much use in competitive play.
Well, you could take one as a black, as a wild card option. So if you have 14 points, you don't know what to do with, you can take one of these.
Well, there you go. Yeah, if you want to give the martyr unit from your Germans something to shoot at, then you got this one. I mean, they are 4 to hit. They're reasonably survivable, but the cross check's great. But the cross check, I've always thought that it went really well with the assault rating of the Churchill tanks rather than essentially trying to hide yourself into woods. But yeah, I just don't see it. The TOG, I think the TOG actually has some hope, which it is amazing for a TOG. In addition to being like the coolest unit and just an absolute beast on the table, the tactical move that I think is this twice as fast as they used to be. I think I recall that they didn't have enough movement to actually be able to move themselves onto the table in past versions.
Because the model's so big.
Yeah, I think the model was longer than their actual movement. I think that was its big claim to fame previously. So you have to angle it coming onto the table because you couldn't just put it straight on. But at 8-inch tactical, that's respectable. And essentially, it's moving as an infantry unit. So it can get itself and 2+ cross. I mean, a monstrosity like that with a 2+ cross. I could have seen them. The fact that it's like almost impossible to turn might give it a smaller cross, a worse cross rating, but it's still, that's not too bad.
Maybe it's point and go.
It's got a it's got medium tank armor. It does not have heavy tank armor, but it's got a decent top armor. And if you get it into assault, in addition to being able to base like 7 infantry units at the same time, it's got top armor too, and it's got a decent counterattack. So I could see a lot more use of this than the Churchill gun carrier. And AT-12, one thing that the British and the Americans are just dying to have is AT-12. I think that's what's really holding them back, is decent priced AT-12 for either one of them. These are 9 points apiece. That's still very expensive, especially to something that can easily die to a medium tank. I mean, ultimately, I don't see them being taken, because if they had 8-7 armor or whatever and 3-4 points more, I could see myself taking these units, but there's just too many things that can punch through their armor. I like everything about them. I'm willing to give up lots of speed like this to save some points, but that armor just isn't going to hold up. Anything 18-9 is just going to eat these things up, and good luck trying to hide these things anywhere on the table. They are massive. So,
well, I faced one opponent in all my years with a TOG. One opponent. You want to take a wild guess who it was?
Was it Coaches?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. It was at that Masters tournament with the MidWar Monsters.
It was. Yeah. He took him to the Masters tournament. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And it's like half the table. And they died so easily.
Yeah. Well,
he was so disappointed.
They are considerably better than they used to be, but they were just so bad to start with. So they're a fun, interesting unit, but they're not going to beat the world anytime soon. So, yeah, if you played Coaches in that tournament, you also saw plenty of boarhounds. I think he is the world's most prevalent collector of boarhounds because of that single tournament. It's essentially it's an armored car Sherman. I believe the armor has come down a bit. I could be mistaken. The armor is worse than a Sherman, but it's got a Sherman-like gun. The AT-10 it's a nice gun for I believe these are a 4-point unit with scout and spearhead. That's not too shabby. They're obviously never going to enter into ruins or forest with that 5+ cross.
Right.
They're handicapped by the morale penalties that they give all non-Soviet recon units. They can't assault. They can't counterattack. They will run away if you kill a couple of them. But you can take them in groups of 4. It's pretty rare that you can take recon in groups of that size. You're going to be hard pressed to find a cheaper AT-10 than this. And so for that reason, I could see myself taking one of these as a not terribly expensive unit, but they're skill 3+, so they're liable to make a blitz roll to get full rate of fire on something. If you can find a hill to park them behind, it's a good unit. 4+. They love hills. They hate forest. That there's a lot of units that fall into that category. I could see these units being played. So
So I have 4.
Yep.
Yeah, about 4.
That's a magic number. You can no longer take them like a full formation of them. I think Coaches actually took a full formation of these at one point. So he's got more than you need if you're ever in the market of more boarhounds.
Yeah. Well, it's only since it's a wild card option. I actually was toying around with the list for this weekend using those 4, but I had more Italians painted, so all I had to do is paint the 4 T26s or whatever they're called. P26s anyway.
Yeah, P2640s.
Savannah, what do you think of a TOG?
I guess it really depends on how much you value it sounds like it's fun to play, and then also not as fun, depending on.
Well, the model is huge. Well, you know how big a Churchill is, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's bigger than a Churchill. I mean, it's taller, it's longer.
About 1.5.
Yeah, it's immense. And
how did he get away with it +2 for a crossing? Or 2+ for crossing?
It's not going to become bogged down in a trench, so it can cross
just
small rivers
rolling
by itself
over
just by
Is
driving
it just
across.
rolling over everything? Like, is that the approach?
It's a World War I design. It's based on the
Yep.
old rhomboid tanks, so it's that long so that it can easily cross trenches. And so they thought they were going to fight trench warfare again. So this is a World War I vehicle fighting in World War II.
Okay, well, I guess that explains the +2 crossing, but at the same time, a boggy woods poses more conflict to a tank built like that than a trench.
It's got very wide tracks too. So
Very wide tracks. Yeah, it's actually about weight dispersal over road wheels is the secret. That's why Churchills actually have a lighter footprint, even though they're just so huge and big and heavy. It's because the number of road wheels spreading the weight over the tracks. By the way, the Bevington Tank Museum has a TOG walkthrough video that you can see on YouTube. So if you ever wanted to, they talk about the TOG and everything you ever wanted to know about it, and they'll take you inside and show you what it looks like and stuff like that. And they kind of poke fun at it too. So,
while I was in Virginia for a little while, I went to the Transportation Museum at Fort Lee. And I got a ton of pictures of just like all sorts of different tanks. And I'm just like, these are so cool. Like, and it'd be like, I recognize the name from like the models I've helped John with. And it'd be like, that's what this thing looks like in real life. It was fun. Sometimes
the one neat thing is about
open and you could see inside of them.
I would say this: if you're a really good painter, you can use the TOG as a really good canvas for your camo because it's so big. You really can get some really good looking camo on it.
Yeah, you could put desert on one end and Arctic on the other.
Want me to top it for a drink,
yes, would you?
The rounding out the 4 is the T-14, which they share with the Americans. It's a Sherman in all but armor. It does have a slightly better counterattack. I'll give it that, but it is unimpressive. I think 13 points apiece for the AT-10 gun, and you're really getting one additional front armor, and I'm just not feeling that. The Sherman for the British, I don't think I've ever seen it played. I don't think the British Sherman comes in at like 9 points apiece. It's too expensive as it is, and making it more expensive to give it one more front armor and giving it better assault ability, I just don't think that makes it any better. 13 points for the gun armor combo. That armor 7 that'll help you against AT-10 things, but again, I've got the image of martyrs burned into my eyes in MidWar, and I always ask, does it pass the martyr test? Are martyrs going to eat this thing alive? And AT-7 is lunch for a group of martyrs. So I don't think the armor's enough of a survivability bump to justify their exorbitant cost, because you're paying for that armor. They're not upgrading any of the weapon systems. It's just straight armor and better assault counterattack. So I don't think I'm ever going to consider T-14s in a competitive list either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear the ice machine. They're making more margaritas. Being Cinco de Mayo.
I had to get someone to come down here to shut off the dryer because I didn't want to walk over there, and I'm just like,
well,
it's making too much noise.
So I think in summation, I don't think really the British come out with anything other than the Boarhound. Just if you want to be,
I'd say that's about a 3-star unit, and that's the best of the bunch.
Yeah. Well, who's that leave?
Clearly the Russians.
We'll bring. That's the Americans.
Okay, we got the Americans. The Americans have a lot of promise, which just means more disappointment. The Americans, I think that their biggest handicap is the lack of reasonably costed AT-12.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't count the extremely overpriced M10s, they top out at AT-10, and that means you're open to Churchills, which the Soviets and the British can take Churchills, and German Tigers or high level units. Without AT-12, I think that's their biggest downside, biggest thing preventing them from excelling in mid-war. And so they give the Americans a whole lot of AT-12. It's just everybody gets a 76 millimeter cannon, but then they all have flaws. None of them are perfect. The unit I'm probably most disappointed in is the T-55 Interceptor, the tank destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
As I was finally hoping for a cheaper tank destroyer unit that you could use to battle some of those units. And I think I've mentioned this before here that it just they are worse in every facet to German martyrs, and they cost more, and that's just a kick in the face. And so I could see myself taking T-55s just because the Americans are so hard up. That 5+ cross is brutal. They never will enter a set of woods. The 0 armor all around means they're going to be killed by Stuarts and other T-70s or something weird.
Or
but
the Italian tanks.
Yeah, the Italians. L6s are just going to swarm all over these things and destroy them. The Seek Strike and Destroy is a lot worse with 4 skill than it is with 3 skill. That's in late war. Everybody I know and their dog is going to take the Desert Veterans or the better skill. It's decently reliable with a 3+ skill. 4+ skill, you're living fast with your lives of your troops. So the gun's great. It's exactly what the Americans need, is a cheaper tank destroyer, but this unit, I think it's just still overpriced. The combination of no armor, aggressive, and unable to enter a terrain feature means that these things are going to be singled out and killed very, very, very quickly. And they're so vulnerable, you can't expose yourself to get full rate of fire, and then they don't have reliable enough skill to be able to pop out and get an alpha strike. They're going to be a very difficult unit to use, which is disappointing. The T-55, this is the one mid-war monster that I had used in the previous versions of the game, but again, they don't quite get it done. I don't know what their formula does that causes American tank destroyers to be so ridiculously overpriced in mid-war, but these guys fall to the same fallacies that they used to price the M10s. It's disappointing because that's holding back the Americans.
We used to call the T-55s, because this is kind of dating it. Yeah, when Sharknado, we used to call them Sharknado in version 3. Because they kind of look like sharks, and Sharknado came out at that time, the first one, and so we called them Sharknado. And yeah, unfortunately, with everything going against it, yeah, if you go light tank, with a light tank swarm, they're dead. You're right. They can't put themselves in a position where they, in woods or something like that to protect themselves. Though it is interesting that the M6 in the book, that the 3-inch gun has a 3.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Right, and on the card here, where it's a 2.2. I'm thinking it's a 2.2.
Yeah, I would imagine they haven't given any main gun that much. In fact, the 37 millimeter being a 3.3, that's pretty remarkable as well.
Yeah.
That the coaxial gun there. I assume
Well,
they were both typos, but I see that they kept the 3.3 for the 37 on the card. So
yeah. The Nathan, I agree with him. If you were going to take one, if you could take one M6 for 13 points,
I do think the M6 is the best of the bunch.
Yep.
The while the M27's not a terrible tank by any means, the 7, I just think that's kind of in no man's land for armor. That's not reliable enough to keep you out of the boneyard. So I think that the T27, even though it's a little bit cheaper, a little bit more maneuverable, I don't think its armor holds up. The 8 front armor, once you get to the 8, that is reasonably survivable. This tank can assault, it can counterattack. It's not going to kill anything in the assaults with its 5+ skill, and heaven help you if they get around to the side. But I mean, it's not too far off from a German Panther. The AT-12 gun is, again, desperately needed by the Americans. Its no HE rule is kind of counterbalanced by the fact that it also has the 37 millimeter, which can fire at gun teams and tanks. It must have a whole lot of 50 caliber machine guns because it's got a better rate of fire than any other unit with a 50 caliber machine gun. So it's an all around okay tank. I've played against this unit in a tournament, and my Romanian Panzer III's got around to the side of it and shot it. You certainly, for a tank that wants to be an assault tank, it got to protect its sides. If something gets around to the side, then a medium tank's going to take it out. It got to play it the same way you'd play a Panther. You got to keep that front armor always there, because the eight's good, 5's not. Yeah, so I could see that being the best of the bunch. Yeah, that's more of a indictment of the quality of the other units than a super excitement about the M6. But it's the closest to playability, and I would rather spend my points on M6s than M10s.
Yeah. Oh, just survivability, gee whiz. Yeah.
Survivability, the AT-12 and the cross check is decent. There's a lot of things decent about this tank. It's not super exciting, but the 8 armor I think will hold up better than anything else.
I think so too.
I think you have to be very confident to play some of these, especially the T55. You have to be have a very confident game plan so that it can actually do its job without getting killed in the first round.
Well, it would become your ambush unit, and you hope you do well because it's probably not going to be around the next turn.
Right. Yeah, you have to have be very confident, especially when all of these at most have a front armor of 7, which makes them vulnerable to just about anything. You're like talking about survivability, like.
Well, the good thing about MidWar is that
make them last.
8, 9 is your typical gun.
Yeah. 12 is really a premium in MidWar, with one exception. So, yeah, 8 armor against 9 and 10. That's a strong armor total. So, long as you're not playing against that one unit and play them wisely, I think you can get some traction out of them. 13 points apiece. It's not too bad. I'd pay the extra 2.5 points that it takes for the M6 over the M27. So the M27, it's not a terrible tank either. I would say the M6 about a 3-star, the M27 is 2-star, and then T55 is just terrible. So I think the T14s, they have the same problem as the British ones at 9.5 points. They are cheaper, but they're also aggressive. I think the M27 is a clear better buy than the T14. There's a 1 point difference between the two. Their armor is pretty comparable. I would just much rather pay that extra 1 point to upgrade the gun from a 10 to a 12. Yeah, and the top armor is 2 is nice, but I don't think it's. At that point, there might be better options. The Americans, their skill is so bad in assaulting that I don't think of them as assault troops in the first place. So bonuses to their counterattack and their top armor, I don't give it as much of a premium as I would say for a German unit or a Soviet Union, because they're not going to hit very often.
Well, we have a good question here. Do you think TOs will allow mid-war monsters an event? I'm going to say yeah, because you know why? A lot of these, like the T-24 and I believe the T-27, are not, they're regular formation units. I don't know if someone, T-14 is, the T-27 is. Yeah, the only thing that's mid-war monsters, wild card, for example, is the M6 and the T-55. So you're not, separating anything out. I don't think anyone's going to be playing T-55s. But wait a minute. What is this? What is this?
You know the best units because that's the one Joe bought. Good choices, Joe.
I think the only reason why TOs might limit how many is if it's like a themed one where it's like, this is not the place for that.
True.
And I think that might be one of the few situations where they might be limited, or if you have like, or at least.
I think that they price them right now that it's kind of a moot point. People can bring them, but nobody's going to get bent out of shape because it's a more competitive unit or whatever. My group, I mean, this game's got enough. You got to stretch your imagination kind of moments that I don't think anyone is going to be like, oh, that's not a historical unit or whatever. The fact that you can take like seven KVs in a Finn list or something like that. And they never had that many tanks. Doesn't seem to bother too many people. So I certainly see them being allowed a lot in the short term when it's a new and novel unit. Maybe as time goes by, and once the Eastern Front book is released, just knowing it appears that they're just releasing all of the same units that were mid-war monsters before, and there are some mid-war monsters in the Eastern Front book that may be more problematic, that may draw more of a tournament organizer backlash. Right now, if someone is going to allow mid-war monsters, it's doesn't really affect the game at all. People are handicapping themselves by taking them, but once they start becoming good, or if they do become good at any point, then there might be some backlash and they might be banned from some tournaments.
Yeah, I think the big problematic one, if I remember correctly, it's probably going to be the KV5. Yeah,
the KV5. It was a bit of a problem way back then, and if the TOG stats are any different, then they're not going to penalize the movement quite as bad as they've done before. Maybe the KV5 might be a bit big for its britches, and that also kind of stretches the ability to actually like use your imagination that these things are in the battle, because it is just obscenely large. Anything that makes the TOG look small is a bit gargantuan. So yeah, I think, especially since we're about to get a second wave of mid-war monsters when the Eastern Front book comes out, that they're going to be new, they're going to be novel, people are going to look forward to it, and then if they become commonplace, then I see there being a backlash and these being more limited. But right now, pretty much every tournament I've been to in mid-war since they've been released have allowed them, and it hasn't proven any problem. The tournaments are still fun and competitive, so all good. Yay, mid-war monsters.
All right, so that kind of wraps up the desert mid-war monsters thing. So I don't know. I guess what's play? What have we learned today? Anne, have you learned anything today?
That I think that Jacob's not a huge fan of the MidWar monsters.
No, he is.
Of MidWar.
You know, he is. He went yay. Well, he's not a big fan.
Oh,
MidWar.
Yay is about as emotional as I get.
How about our audience? Why don't you go ahead and those who are on here live? Why don't you go ahead and type what did you learn today? Jacob, did you learn anything today?
I learned that you can take more mid-war monsters than I thought you could. So I didn't realize how the different black boxes, wild card labeling worked. I didn't pay very close attention to that. I kind of just saw them all as interchangeable. But that kind of changes how I see some of them. The Tiger P, probably less attractive than I once thought it was, because it's not a black box unit. So good to know.
Lana?
I think I learned that most of the MidWar monsters are more of like all bark and limited bite, just because of how many things about them will actually create a handicap for players that take them. Like you can take that Tog, but at what cost to your own list?
Right.
Well, which, if by design, I think it was a good move by Battlefront. Not if they intentionally made these a little bit on the weaker side, if they were a bit more conservative about them, then good on them. I think these were not play tested a whole lot before they were released, and they did not make anything that would prevent people from allowing mid-war monsters. I think conservative pointing is better on all of these non-historical units. So good on them if they designed it that way.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, that kind of works into it's all bark and limited bite.
Well, Nathan, he learned that Togs are wonderful canvases.
So billboard space on the side of them.
Yeah, billboard space. Yeah, rent this, eat at Joe's, Yeah, run it up, run across the battlefield. Actually, can you imagine if this was like NASCAR and you had sponsors and you go with sponsors on your models and stuff?
I thought that's what the Soviets had written on theirs. Eat at Joe's. I can't read Cyrillic, so that's what I imagine them saying.
It just be all the game stores that people play at.
So I'd like to thank everyone on here that joined us. I'd like to thank our SME Jacob for showing up, and our resident non-employee Lana, and for jumping on and giving her perspective.
And all her hard work behind the scenes.
Yeah, all her hard work behind the scenes. We are keeping up. Cliff is keeping up the tournament scene, so you could post. That's in Facebook.
The Facebook group. Yes.
Yeah, the Facebook group. He's posting every week tournaments out there. So there's stuff coming up.
Doing a great job. So, if you've missed anything, make sure you tell him.
Yeah. So get with Cliff, post it in there. He'll pick up and he'll get it on the list. There's a bunch of stuff coming up this summer. So get there. There's Historicon, which I think is it just 100 late? I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's pretty vanilla.
Yeah, pretty vanilla. At first I swear I thought they said MidWar. And I must have changed that. And I thought, what are you, crazy?
Yeah, I've had a lot of mid-war recently, so I'm looking forward to late war again.
Well, hopefully the German book comes out.
Yeah, that migration book. Yeah, cross your fingers. I haven't heard a release date for that, but I've been looking forward to that for about a year and a half now. So hopefully it comes to fruition. If you're in Texas, though, we are running a lot of tournaments this summer. So if you're ever in Texas, or if you're listening from Texas, come out and join us. Several of them are up there on Cliff's tournament list. So we're really trying to get events going. So come out and join us.
Yeah, Brian did send the list to Cliff. Well, he sent it to me. I forwarded to Cliff. Oh, and by the way, for those who are waiting, I know it might be a little dated if you look at this. Historicon, the tournament results are up, and we finally got them this week. Well, we had Team Yankee but it was it was interesting. They told me the reason for the delay is they just thought they weren't going to be counted.
No.
And I'm like, I thought we went through a whole thing on that. And it was like, well, because of this and because of someone's creative list building, that it wasn't going to be counted. And I'm like, what? We went through all that. It's like,
they might have wished that they had just let it go.
Just let it go. But too many people, second through the bottom wanted it listed.
Absolutely.
So might as well. And then and Team Yankee. By the way, we are going to do a side tournament at Team Yankee. I just haven't figured out what. Half of me, part of me wants to say, I want to do late war with the same rules.
Brian's trying to get me to come up, and if it was not Team Yankee, that would be a big plus. So,
well, it won't be Team Yankee because we don't have that. We have people who play it, but the ones who do have armies, one's running it and another one's in it. That doesn't leave too many more Team Yankee players.
Good deal.
So I want to get a bigger draw. So there's a couple people that are bringing people. So I know 2 people so far. A lot of well, I guess it all depends if your husband could get time off. Would you be joining him that weekend?
What day?
When is it?
Which weekend is it?
June 25th, 26th. Because
I had to ask for a lot of vacation day. I've already had to ask for. John has more vacation days than me, I think, right now, just because I'm newer at the company. And I've had to ask for several days off already for weddings.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you got them, use them.
Right.
Would it be a 2-day event for the side, or just a single day for a Saturday?
A single day. Well, that's a good question. I might ask. I know. Well, Nathan and they're planning on coming. That's okay.
You said June what?
25th, 26th. Late War 84. I wonder why 84 points.
I work.
That's how many
both
T26
of those days.
What's that?
I work both of those days. It's early enough that I might be able to trade around, but
You should work it in there.
I'll see what I can do. I don't know.
What would be real funny is if you can make it and your husband can't.
That is honestly a tad bit more likely.
Well, I hope you can make it. So far, I only have 1 decline.
I hope John can make it too. It's been a rough season for him just because of all the tournaments usually land on days that he works. So he hasn't been able to make it to nearly as many tournaments as he usually gets to go to.
Well, you know what that tells me? He's got to get a new job.
Something like that, I know.
Yeah, you get a job to support your hobby, your habit, a hobbit. Anyway, you got to support your hobbit. The big furry feet. Support your habit, but you got to have time to go to do your habit.
Right, right, yeah. I think it'd be good for him if he can make it for sure. But he'd have to get the days off.
I hope you can. I like to see what he comes up with. It'd be interesting. That'd definitely break him out of his comfort zone.
Oh yeah, he'd be one of those guys that are just like, I fucking hate this list. I hope it works.
Yeah.
I need more infantry.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, let me just put my Israelis around everything. Yeah. Golan Heights, the subjective, same thing. Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like I feel like it's gonna be a lot of Humvees.
Well, there's that too. The cav. I was looking at the cavalry. The Americans have a lot of options. I actually got a couple things for the Russians to work. I don't want to give away any ideas, but I kind of be interesting to see what people come up for the Russians. But
John likes to play with Tim a lot on a tabletop simulator. Bugs, get out of there! My kitten's underneath my desk.
Yeah,
playing with something.
Right.
He'll
Modern
play
2
test
infantry formation.
stuff on like a tabletop simulator online a lot with some of his friends as well, other than Tim. And it'll be interesting to see what he comes up with. He can be a very indecisive list builder because he wants everything to be just right.
Yeah, list crafting. I'll probably spend more time list crafting than actually playing. This is where we become students of the game. So, anyway, so I think with that, I think we're gonna wrap up here. Make sure to catch us up. We'll probably be back sometime in June. Maybe I'll have probably after. Maybe I have the list, and maybe I can go over the list that are coming up, doing a real good preview. Maybe I'll do something like that. That should be interesting, and we'll see what else comes out. Anyway, everyone, thank you for watching, and if you like, hit the like button. Tell a friend. And we have our archives of everything over there. And this is our 103rd show. We're gonna put it in the can.
Impressive.
So, yeah, I know. I believe it 103rd. If you look at my first one, God, it was sad. This one's less sad.
That's all you can
Only slightly less sad.
move in the right direction on the sad scale.
No, on the bright side, when you get this new house, you'll be even less sad because Lola, Bugs, stop it.
Well, actually, when we get the new house, we'll actually have a studio.
Right? Yeah, exactly. It's going to be slightly less sad. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And with the equipment and multi-camera shoot, hoping to get a table involved and stuff like that. I don't know. We got a lot of things to do, so it should be pretty cool.
Bring people in to play on camerage.
Yeah. Actually, I thought about actually doing a game on like New Year's Eve, and talking about the game and celebrating New Year's and see who the heck wants to watch that.
That'd be a good. That'd be a good Twitch on a stream.
Yeah, get someone come in and do that, and just talk through the game. So anyway, there we go. Anyway, I wish me luck this weekend. Play those Italians, and it should be interesting. Italians and one tiger, and we'll see what happens. It's. By the way, if I really wanted to win, I'd be playing the German armored car list with a Martyrs and a Ferdinand, which is kind of a default switch for MidWar. But I didn't, it's like, oh, hey there, Mr. Original.
Gotta try and be creative about it.
Well, but I have a lot of the Italians, so I just picked up the box of, of 4 P26s, and painted them up just like the rest of my little Italian tanks, and there we go. Anyway, thanks for guys coming on, and thanks you guys for watching. Ann, you want to play us out?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's see a little bit more.
What do we got going here?
Yeehaw!
Yeah.
It wouldn't be Cinco de Mayo without a mariachi, right?
No, and that's and the margaritas. That's good margarita. You know the thing about the margarita, it actually gets better every time you take a drink. I don't know what that's about. You know?
How much sugar did you put in that?
I don't know. Ann made them, so she's over there drinking them up. She's just a big smile on her face. She's like, you know, I'm probably gonna have to wheel her up upstairs. All right, come on. You know, I love you guys.
This is not as good as beer.
Yeah.
German beer.
All right. Anyway, was Hasta La Vista? Is that
Hasta la vista.
Hasta La Vista, everybody?